Welcome, welcome, welcome. Get started in one moment. I'm going to share my screen. This is the first session of the BOS Academy online. So we're diving into the blockchain operating system and how to build anything. So let me just get into it. Got a few slides just to get oriented, and we'll share this video afterward. And I'll go through a walkthrough and then we'll open it up for questions. So we're going to create our first BOS app today. And before we do that, I want to explain how to participate in this collaborative learning experience. Then we'll briefly review what BOS is all about, talk about reusable components, state management, and the Near Social API. At any point, you can go to academy.near.social and get all the links. Your first homework assignment is due next Friday, June 30th, and you will build a customizable community page. What does that mean? We'll walk through exactly how to do that in the session today. And you can earn on-chain builder badges through BuildDAO, which requires, submitting on time to get the first round of badges. And this will reflect your achievement, submitting what you built, whether it's done or if you had a bug or, anything counts, just wanting to share your experience and, make a post on the DevHub platform, which I'll explain how to navigate in one moment. But for the actual community page, which is the homework assignment, you must actually use two of the APIs which are available on the blockchain operating system in the developer environment, which we'll tour in a moment. Just getting through. If anybody wants to follow along at your own pace, you're more than welcome to do this assignment at any point over the course of the BOS Academy program. And we're hoping to improve on this entry-level project-based learning experience. If you have any feedback, or if you make a really cool community page, it might be integrated with future educational programs. So try to represent a community that you wish to support, and not just some old, fake community or something like that, because it'll force you to really think about users and be unique. Don't just fork the various examples that I will share. We will also have pair programming and daily office hours. So we will do a daily stand-up meeting at 2 p.m. UTC, which is 10 a.m. Eastern time. A little bit early for the West Coast, but we're doing a full hour every day, and we're trying to make it accessible across time zones. We can, adjust if it's too hard for a bunch of folks who are participating. But that's the current schedule, and you can sign up for those recurring sessions, the daily office hours, on the landing page. Once again, it's academy.near.social, and it has links to the office hours, but also each of the sessions where you will, register for the online walkthroughs and workshops and demos and fun stuff happening. So that's our home base for the summer, academy.near.social. And please reach out if you want to schedule a one-on-one meeting to do some pair programming, or if you want to get a group together and, have a mini hackathon, that's what we're all about. So please just let us know. And we're trying to be as open and collaborative as possible. And each one of you can, be part of this as a kind of mentor. And we're collaborating to help each other learn and build. And that's part of the power of BOS. So if you want to join the off-chain group on Telegram with your phone, here's a quick QR code to do that. We also have some useful resources. I mentioned DevHub, which is coordinated through near-devgov.org. You can also find the application on the blockchain operating system. It's formerly known as the DevGov Gigs board. So you can find that. It's featured on most of the home pages that you'll find. And yeah, so the reading as well, be sure to read the docs if you haven't already, docs.near.org/boss. There's a lot of great resources in there. It explains all of the APIs you have at your disposal. We're going to cover a few of those today, which are what I believe are most important to get started and kind of the bare minimum that you need to know in order to build a real BOS app. And just keep in mind that everyone is learning together and we're helping each other. That's the unique aspect of BOS Academy, is we're building the program together as a community on the blockchain operating system, which is a common ground for all open web experiences. And it's compatible with any blockchain. So it's not just for Near. You can talk to any blockchain. And we have a diagram here just to explain the problems that BOS actually solves for Web 2 and Web 3. And in the middle, these are common problems across both Web 2 and Web 3. So you can just review those to understand why BOS matters and how it really impacts the world of web development and opens the web. So we're talking about fully decentralized solutions, and the takeaway, the benefits are accessibility, security, and composability. So if you want to check it out and follow along, please go to near.org. That's the main gateway, which is a portal to the blockchain operating system. And we're talking about how to build anything on the blockchain operating system, which would be accessible across gateways, not just near.org. But it's pretty cool that what used to be a closed source website for the Near protocol is now on chain and totally open to anyone contributing. And there are other gateways too. We'll cover that later in the summer. You could learn how to build your own gateway. So without further ado, I'm going to try to quickly go through what we're calling the aha moments. And it starts with this one. It just makes it easier. And you can build anything. So the JavaScript code, which is like React, if you're familiar with the framework, the most commonly used JavaScript front-end, app development framework, this React style code is actually stored and hosted in a contract. So you run the code in the contract using the virtual machine as the way to render the components that you're building, just like React. So the virtual machine, or the web engine under the hood, makes it possible to store this code and host your components on chain by storing the actual JavaScript in a contract. And then we want dApps to be accessible across gateways. That's really important, and we'll demonstrate how that works with the profile page, which we'll start building to get a feel for the Near Social API. So that means that users can interact with any blockchain across different portals to the BOS. And so you can, never have a Near account and still use a component that is, facilitating the interactions with an Ethereum-based component. So the developers would need a Near account, but the users can use whatever blockchain they're already using. And all overall, like I said, we're all building together. That's the main takeaway. The final aha moment is really that it's about collaboration. The composability of all this brings the same qualities of a smart contract to the front end. So that's what we mean by the fully decentralized solutions. But yeah, I will jump right into just get back to the landing page. So those are all the slides. Now we can dive into some coding. And first, I just wanted to point out this link here will take you to register for all of the daily office hour sessions. They're not mandatory, of course, but they're made available to you as a resource if you need help with anything along the way. And will also be available outside of those hours asynchronously. So if you didn't get the QR code, we'll make sure to get you in the right place. There will be a link on this page to the Telegram group as well. But each of these sessions has its own link, so you can register for the virtual sessions happening on a weekly basis, led by these fantastic workshop facilitators and boss experts, builders extraordinaire. So really interested in all of these different topics, and you can choose your own adventure. So you don't have to attend all of them. We'll have the homework assignments as well, so you can still earn your badges even if you don't attend the sessions. And we're trying to build toward this hackathon at the end of the summer, and you can get started on your projects now. So if you're thinking ahead, use the coursework as an advantage to just start building sooner than later, level up your skills, and connect with fellow builders and collaborators. So once again, academy.near.social, or you can find the academy component. And near.org is the best place to get started. We have the DevHub platform as well, wanted to mention. So when you complete your homework assignment, you'll see this post here, explains the resources and the instructions here. So you'll reply to this post with your submission. And if you want, you can just make a new post, which will start a whole thread focused on your project. So this just makes it easy to keep track of them. But really, it's about coming up here and interacting with the DevHub, which is a platform to share ideas, match builders with opportunities, and get them support they need to build cool stuff. And there are communities involved here. So if you go to this little button, you can actually see the different communities. All right, I'm not sure what happened there, but if I refresh, I think this should work. Yeah, so there's all these different communities, and we're talking about community pages, right? So it's a hot topic. We're thinking about what does it mean to build a community page, and you can share what you think it should look like or how it should work. And you could also come in here and just create a community on DevHub.
Hey James, we can only see your PowerPoint screen right now.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. View tab, I can change tab. Is that share this tab instead? I'm really sorry about that. Thanks, chat. So
also, you could enable the chat too. I think some people have some questions for the Telegram.
I got you. Okay, all right. Enabling the chat. I was thinking we'd have questions, but I guess I didn't make sure to enable that. I'm not sure how to. Attendees can chat with everyone. Does that work now?
We have our GMs. We have our GMs.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. We're just getting started, building some momentum, and yeah, this is the page I was trying to show you. sorry for rambling on. Thank you very much, Shot. This is the academy.near.social landing page with all the information. And I was highlighting this daily office hours registration link. So you can sign up here once, and then you'll get all the daily office hours into your calendar. Each of these links goes to a separate registration page for the sessions that are listed here. And we're building toward that hackathon. So get your projects started. And then I was showing the DevHub, or trying to. So the this is, keeps making me refresh, I guess. So this is the communities page we were talking about, but here's the DevHub, which had your post about the homework assignment. So this is where you can reply, and we are gathering all of the submissions for the homework assignments. So you can just hit reply here on the DevHub platform, which is accessible at devgovgigs.near.social, or you can find the DevHub app, by searching. And yeah, you just reply here as a solution and include the proper hashtags. We can get creative with it, just make sure to throw in hashtag build. I think that's a good one. And then you got to submit by hopefully the second workshop, which is next week on the 28th, but we'll keep it open so you can still earn your badge by end of next week. So the next homework assignment will involve community pages, and so you can get another badge for leveling up your community page if you've already completed yours. But if you haven't gotten around to it, you can still earn the first badge just by submitting what you did by the end of next week.
Yeah, and just to clarify on that, all these are under kind of the same nomenclature, nearbuilders.com slash HW submit dash HW1, HW2 as we implement, and this will be all available in the Telegram, and we'll make those announcements clear as well. And then yeah, we'll post there. I'll post in the chat, but I can only send to a host and panelist right now. And if you go to the communities page, you can actually on DevHub, you can navigate to BuildDAO and see that there. So this is near-devhub.org, communities page, BuildDAO. We also have some short links, and that'll be made available through the Telegram and email.
Yeah, and I think I just enabled panelists to chat with everyone now, so you can hopefully send links. But thanks for clarifying. Really appreciate it. We want to use DevHub as a place to coordinate. So any ideas you have, questions, things like that, you can post here. That's fair game, or you can let us know off chain in the Telegram. So moving along, I guess, if there are no other questions in the chat now that we have GMs are flowing, or did we want to go back and make sure we covered those resources? The next thing would be what you find at near.org once you log in. So this is an example of a community page, which is actually called an activity page. And so you can fork this by going to develop at the top, and then you can either just look at the code, or you can fork right away. And so if we just, we can look at the details, which includes all of the code. So this is on-chain JavaScript code, which you can reuse. You can fork it. If you click open, it goes back to the component as it is rendered on the page. But if you want, you can click fork, and it'll take you to this editor. So this is where you'll build your first BOS app. And you don't need many components, but you can choose a lot of different starting points for a community page. there are strengths and weaknesses of various approaches, and it depends on your community what you'd actually need. So think about it, in terms of a product perspective, understanding the requirements, and you know meeting user expectations with a high quality experience, um, that is meaningful and valuable to them. So you're really building a support system as a community page. But this is a one example, um, and you can come in here and edit any of the code and make it your own. So if you wanted to feature different components, what you can do is go into that part of the code. So we'll find, it's a little bit slow, but we'll find the featured components component, and then we'll update the widgets based on what we find out there that we want to feature. And the community would benefit from these more than whatever is listed in the default. So here's the widget, and this is an example of the composability in action. So where you see widget in the code, if you can see where I'm highlighting now, this line 139 in the activity page. So if you're following along, you can find the activity page component, and you can copy this path. And what you might want to do, which is a little bit of a shortcut, is you can hit this green plus and then open a component, and you just give it the path of that component. And this is one of the key concepts, is the path, because everything on the BOS has a path and a block height, and the current version is at the latest block height. So really, you can find anything just by the path. And what we're looking at is an example of that. Every path starts with a near account ID. So in this case, it's the root account near, but in your case, it would be xyz.near, or your name.near. And then it's a widget, which is what we call components on the blockchain operating system. It's a playful term. They're interchangeable words. So if you talk about components or widgets, they're the same thing. Components are more familiar to builders, so it's kind of the norm, but we still store the code under widget. So this is part of the path. But you could have anything here. You could store another thing, wherever you want based on what you put into this path. But we're actually using the widget editor to save a widget, so or we're opening a new one based on this path. So we're getting the name of it, which is how this widget is actually stored, is under the featured components name. So when we click open, what we're going to do is we get a new version of that component, which is now going to be under this account, which is my account. So if we saved it and published it, so saving is like creating a draft, and then publishing is actually what you want to do to get it out there, as a widget, or a component. So when we do that, we'll create a new version of the featured components, but under this account. And what we can do is actually change these components based on other paths. So we could put in another component, and these are going to be a few examples that we'll go through. So I'm going to briefly show different examples, and we're gradually going to put them into this new featured components component, or featured components widget. Does that make sense? Everybody feeling good? You got any questions about what we're going to do? Did everybody find the activity page? You can go to near.org, and if you don't have an account, there is a way to get one really easily. using FastAuth, or you can go to shard.dog/go. That's a way to get an account if you don't have one, but I'll assume unless you speak now. Shot, if you see any questions, just let me know, I guess, and we'll get right into it. So here is a profile page. And so what I want to demonstrate here is how components work across gateways, and the social database works across components. So you could have your own kind of profile page, and you can fork this. If you go to near.org and make a profile by going here and clicking profile, that will take you to this page here, and you'll make your own profile. And where that is stored is not under widget, but under profile. So it's just another place that you can store data in the social database contract. And when you actually edit profile, this is why I recommend forking the profile page first. And you can either fork this profile page or another version, and it will correspond to the same data. So when somebody updates their profile in your component, that profile is going to be updated in anybody else's components that use that same space, which is called the profile. So any account could have a profile and store whatever they want, but if it follows the specific pattern, which is kind of like a standard, then it's compatible across various profile components. So this one is a profile editor that's under the root near account. But if we go to the profile page on a different gateway here, so this is actually on a different domain, near.social. And this is actually the older version of the profile page, but it's the same data under my account, just looks differently on this profile page. So if you want to create a community page that looks like a profile, you can do that by forking one of these. So you can just go to your gateway of choice, near.org, near.social. There are others, and it doesn't have to be a near-based profile, but in order to use the near social API, which is one of the qualified APIs for the homework assignment, and it's a fundamental part of building on the blockchain operating system, I would recommend using the profile page first, just to get a hang of how things work. So if we go into this, we can also view the source code, and this is a different profile page component. It has this profile card and some profile tabs, so you can actually go in to see those components as well and customize whatever you'd like about that profile page. But the key here is what you want to see is the same code in both profile pages, and that's at the top here. So this line at the very top is very common, and it's a way to get the near account ID from a user on the page, calling the context.account ID. So this actually stores account ID as the props which might be passed in, which we'll cover in a minute how to do that. And if it doesn't have any props or properties for an account ID, which are passed into the component, then it gets the context.account ID, which is whoever's on the page. And then in the next line, it checks to make sure there is an account ID. And if there isn't, it says no account ID. So this is a really important part of the puzzle that we're putting together. This is like the first corner piece. Getting access to the account ID lets you get access to the profile data in the component. And so this is where we define the profile as either the props which are passed into the component, or if there are no props, it uses the social API, the near social API, which gets the data from the path, which we talked about earlier. So this path is what you pass it. You use the path in the social API to make a call and get the profile data. And so that's what you'll see here. And it also checks if there's a profile, and if there isn't, it says loading. And each of these components here are getting the profile passed into them as a property, as well as this one and this one. They both get the account ID. This one has a show edit button property and this link property as well, but those aren't not as important to keep in mind. That you will need to pass in the props whenever you have just one place where you get the account ID from context. So if we go back to the other profile page, this is the profile page editor. But what we wanted to, I think we can go back to the profile page. So this looks totally different than the other profile page. And keep in mind, communities can have profile pages, and that's a totally valid type of community page. So if you want to just fork this and turn it in as your homework assignment, as long as you customize it and really demonstrate understanding of the 2 or more APIs, then it'll count for sure. And there are others that we'll go through if you don't like this one, but this one is a good way to get started, because now we can see in the code what's so interesting about the social API, because in the same way as before, we have that same line of code where we define the profile as the result of this API call to get the data from this path, which is under the account ID. Like every path starts with an account ID, and it's getting that from where we defined it up here. And then it's getting the data from under the profile thing. So this has a nice little account URL feature. It's got these tabs, which uses state, which we'll talk about next. But this is a simple example of how this data is the same across those 2 components. And then you see a lot of styling. We'll talk about how to do that as well. So that's why you see this one looks nicer, I think, than the one that we were looking at just before. So this one is another profile page, which looks nice too, but it's not using the styled components, which you can find out more about here at styled-components.com. That's the approach we're using. It's not specific to the BOS, but it's a nice way to define these style components and then leverage them in your JSX, which is part of the JavaScript code that you would put into the component. And that's the part that renders or returns the content of the page. So if you're interested to learn more about styling, you can go here. There's also React Bootstrap provided in the virtual machine under the hood. So it's available to you in the dev environment natively. So if you want to use that, it's a right at your fingertips. You don't have to install anything. But just getting back to the task, we have this example. You can start by playing around with the idea of changing where the data is actually saved. So what we're going to do before we forget is we're going to grab this path, right? So we've just gone through first example, which is the profile page. And that can be used to build your community page. And it's a pretty solid starting point. But now we're going to go back. We're going to make our first update to the featured components. So what we have here is it's actually a template where we're using a component card and we're passing in the source of another component as the properties. So we'll copy and we'll replace this social avatar editor, or we'll start from the top and replace, well, let's keep DevHub in there because we'll use that one for sure. Laser chests, shout out to them. You know, the Ostalex team built this as part of our earlier hackathon this year. So just want to give them a shout out before we replace their featured component. Check it out if you're interested in gaming or anything like that. It's kind of a multiplayer example. But now we'll render and see, okay, cool. Now we have the profile page featured. So this is one of the widgets that you could fork and use. So now we're going to get the path of another profile page that we looked at, and we're going to put it in here. And this one is the same name, profile page, but it's actually saved under mob.near, who is the creator of Near Social and, you know, the boss, Eugene the Dream. So he's the creator of this component as well. It's made a ton of really useful components. And we'll render it again. We'll see, boom, we've got the profile page now here. You can see the details of it. You can open it. If you click view details, then you'll be able to fork it. So this is the starting point. So we haven't finished yet, but we'll keep going. But now we've got those two feature components into our new widget. Any questions at this point? We can keep on moving, and we can talk about other examples of community pages. So this one is an example that you might want to try, which we're calling a landing page type. So if you're following along, there's 3 types that we'll go through. This is the second one. The first was a profile page for your community. Second is a landing page for your community. And the highlight of this would be to showcase how you can check a user's account for different things. So in this case, it's you can check to make sure the user has one of these NFTs. And if they don't, it doesn't show this part of the page. So we can see how that works. And this is just one of the landing page examples, but I'm highlighting this pattern, which is to check. It's a conditional that we would want to use in the landing page, so that if you show up to the landing page without an account, you see something that helps you get an account first. And then once you have an account, it'll check if you have gotten the proper credentials yet, like, for example, NFT, or in other cases, following or making a widget, or having a non-transferable soulbound token. Lots of different examples that we have, which you can easily fork and make the landing page. And this would help you if you're trying to onboard people into something about your community. And so this is how it works. This is all you need to see on this part. This is the check. So we have this Near API, which is another API that you can use to qualify for a badge. And this one doesn't interact with the social database contract. It interacts with any other contract on Near. So in this case, we're looking at this contract, which is the minting contract for this onboarding solution called ShardDog, which if you haven't gotten an account, you can do so at shard.dog/go and check it out. And they do NFT drops along with the account generation for new users. And so if you get one of their NFTs, this NFT data will show that you have more than 0 NFTs. That's what it's checking here. So it's an if statement. If NFT data is greater than 0, then this constant, which was previously false, is now true. And that's all it is. So it passes in this account ID, which here has got an underscore because that's how it is defined in the contract. And here it doesn't, and it has a capital I because that's how it's defined in the component. And so you're getting the NFT data from this near.view call to the contract ID using this method, NFT supply for owner. So that checks the number of NFTs minted in this contract owned by this account ID. And if that's greater than 0, you get a true instead of a false. And we can use that down here. So the way that is used in the code is right here. So you wrap around elements of your JSX here. This is under the return. This part is the JSX. And that's part of the React code that renders its HTML in JavaScript and CSS. So you have your abilities to just write JavaScript. You don't have to write anything else, and you have all you need for a page. So you don't even need to worry about the backend on the blockchain operating system because you have the near network, and that handles any security and hosting that you would need. And so you just have to focus on the front end. And these are little tricks you can use to level up. And conditionals are very common in JavaScript. So this is just an example that leverages the near API to get NFT ownership. And if you have a community that uses NFTs, that might be useful to you. But if you don't care about NFTs, there are other ways to check. But this is just an example. So that's the next example. And we have landing pages. Here's one of them. There's another for BuildDAO, which checks if you have created a component. It has a set of tabs with different components. You can see who's building how many widgets here, and this is all open to suggestions, just like any other landing pages that we're building as part of this program. So this one is a different check, but you can go here. It's devs.near.social. It's the short link for this one, and it has a nice little following card. And we have the same. The next page I wanted to show you has the soulbound token check, but actually let's just let's move on to the third example of a community page, and this one you can find at hack.near.social, or you can find the dev.social component. So this is made by our community, and this is an example of a customizable community page. So if you wanted to challenge yourself and go above and beyond for the homework assignment, you can make a customizable community page like this. And the reason it's cool is because you can actually edit whatever you see as a default, and that would affect what everybody sees when they come to your community page that you built. But the users can go into this little button here, and they can customize their own page. So what we want to do is actually come into this, and we're going to add another component that we use that maybe not everybody uses, but we really like it, and so it's not a default, but we want to add the dev the feed. This one has the latest widget, so it's really helpful to builders because you might not care about what people are posting on the blockchain operating system as much as you care about what they're publishing as code. So as it loads, let's move it down. I think it's gonna take a second, but we have these other components here. So we move it to rearrange them, and all this, is very doable. You can create something like this for your community, and this really accentuates the power of BOS to empower users with control of their data, their assets, and the power of governance. And so you have control of your homepage and your landing page or your community page, whereas the default can still be adjusted, based on the needs of a community. And so we'll remove this, I think, for now, and then we'll save it, and then we'll learn one last little tidbit, and then we'll open it up for questions. I can stick around, and we will look here just for a moment. I like to deselect these because I want to see what I'm saving. But you can bypass the screen here if you trust a certain component. But this is actually the path that we were talking about earlier, but we're saving now. So we're saving under this particular space called settings, which is pretty cool because this allows users to set their own preferences, and it's a really different approach than old school social media, where if there's an update to the profile page, that's how it is for everybody. This makes it totally customizable and flips the script, empowering the users with control of everything. So you're actually saving the settings here under a project name dev and under main. So this is the main page editor. So it's this path is actually going to be accessible at hack.near/settings/dev/main, and then you'll get the data here of all the widgets. So these are the ones that we're going to save, and then when we go back to the main page, once it saves, so this is actually called the dev.social component. So I guess if I'm not signed in, oh yeah, I'm signed in. Should be adjusting. Oh, maybe it's I don't think it's saved successfully, unfortunately, but we will have to figure this out. We can use this one to make sure it works. This is the menu, and if you wanted to see, that's weird, it's still there. I think I just didn't give it enough time, and maybe it was loading all the widgets till Kingdom Come, and that broke it. But we can try to remove this again, or we can just save and see how it goes. I think that's the issue, is that I picked a widget that is loading forever, so I need to refresh here. And pick a better one. Sorry about that. Okay, so that really concludes our 3 examples. Hopefully you can find them and remember the 3 different types of community pages that we're recommending, but you are more than welcome to create your own type of community page. I'm going to try this again on a different gateway where I don't have that. Hopefully not. I guess it's still saved. Yeah, so I will gladly, try to figure out why this is not saving, but don't want to take away from time. If anybody has other questions, let me just remove that and see if I can remove this one, and then we'll add something cool like maybe. I think it might be broken now. So maybe I just want to play this game, and so I'm adding that. Or let's add that one's lit forever too. Okay. Should have chosen. See if this reset to default works. Let's do. It won't load forever. Friend Mazza, who's giving a workshop later this summer about component design patterns, made this cool library. So if you're really wanting to contribute, one way to do that is by building a library, which is like a curated list of components. And this should work, hopefully. Not going crazy. And so this is just like a template where you can pass in some data and curate a list of useful components. So this will be useful. And I hope that if I go back to the page, should have updated. Doesn't seem to want to do that. Womp womp. Sorry about that, guys. We'll fix this. That can be what we do right now, if that helps anybody. But for some reason, this doesn't want to update. I'm wondering if it's just taking time, but I don't know. remove this and we add. All right, let's see. Moment of truth again. Hopefully this time I go back. Yay, okay. This works. I must have broken something and I'm really sorry about that. I know that's frustrating. But I was trying to get the right components on the page last minute. I guess that was a huge mistake. I'm really sorry, guys, but this is the demonstration that does work still because I didn't mess with the right-hand side. And you can update what you see on this page. So at least maybe a silver lining that one of them works, but we have a project now. Somebody could fork this and actually fix it. I'm not sure why it doesn't work, but I'm very curious. I'll jump back into the chat and see what other people are thinking. Maybe they have an idea. Thanks for answering questions, Shot. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is the full hour. We can stick around to answer any more questions that people had. Hope it was useful. You know, we're doing the daily office hours and we're building community pages over the next week. So I can pull up again the slide. If you haven't joined, this is the link to join the Telegram group and some of the resources that we have for you to read the docs, get it started. And, you know, if you are having trouble finding the components, don't worry. We'll be sharing links and you know, checking in on a regular basis. Like I said, if you want to schedule time to do some pair programming and maybe help me fix that bug, that'd be great.
Yeah, and I posted the chats in there also on the DevHub page. It's actually near DevHub. DevGov goes to the Webflow, but near DevHub redirects to the near social app. Yeah, there's a post there, and everything under the build tag on DevHub gets indexed to the community page, and all the resources shared are now published on the homework assignment page. If you can navigate there, you got to refresh though.
Okay. Yeah, that's one great thing about the DevHub is posts are editable, which is not true of everywhere. But anything can be editable on the BOS. But yeah, here's the home base. I guess you're saying it's DevHub. What's the URL for this?
Neardevhub.org. Well, we got a short link too. If you go to nearbuilders.com/BuildDAO-hub, and made that available on the chat as well. It just redirects to that. But you can go to the communities nearbuilders.com/BuildDAO-hub.
Okay. You know, Shot's got the redirects. Boom. BuildDAO community page. So you can level up, right? Get started building your community pages. Think about what that means to you and your community. Get creative. Let us know if you have any problems, any questions, and help each other. You know, we're all builders in training. At the end of the day, we're gonna get some new skills over this journey together, and really excited to learn with all of you. So thanks for the opportunity to share and continue building in this new paradigm. You know, we're actually improving the web, which is kind of a big deal. So let's do it.
And yeah, can you quickly go over just the post real quick, and we can do like a quick overview of the concepts, the qualifying APIs, and the community pages. That's all there, and we'll take some time to maybe answer some questions. And then an overview of like the questions in the chat. So people were asking about testnet on BOS. There's test .near.social. There's also Nearpad, which is a developer-centric gateway that allows you to switch. I refer to components dying. They don't actually die. It's all saved on chain using storage staking, but sometimes when you're referencing components on chain, they have some breaking dependencies. So that's important to note. Sometimes we'll fork a lot of the dependencies that we're on in order to prevent that, to have control over that in our data tree. For those looking for near developers, hit us up on Telegram. We do have the dev token fairy on deck. That's nearbuilders.com/tg-builders. But yeah, any more questions?
So yeah, here's the social API that we mainly covered. Also want to highlight the state API. It's different than React. So be warned, you got to learn how to simplify the approach for state management. And we'll cover that more when we have time to do some real coding. But yeah, state doesn't have use effect or hooks or anything like that for React component. You have to use this API. And then
not continue. I'm gonna answer some questions in the chat.
Nice. Yeah, we're around. If you have any more questions, these are the two main APIs that I would recommend using because they're the most commonly used, I think, in addition to what we'll cover next week in more detail, which is the near APIs and Ethereum APIs, which right now include the Ethers.js product. So this is a Ethereum-based, development library of sorts, or a framework, even. Not sure, but it's Ethers.js, very common approach to building stuff on Ethereum, and you can use that in your components, just like you can use the Near API, which is here. And then just like going through them, I don't want to overwhelm anybody. Focus on the ones that we just said, but otherwise, if you're needing to talk to like a Web2 API, use the fetch call right here. You can do async fetches. Can't do async functions in a component right now, but in due time, all is possible. The storage API is another one, and then like that. The way that I think about it is social APIs for storing data permanently on chain. State API is for managing it when a user is on the page, but when they refresh or come back, that data is gone. And the storage API is kind of like a middle ground where you can store preferences for a user briefly, and so that they can kind of navigate a broader app and use the local storage to keep a variable defined as what they want as a key or key value pair. So this one's really helpful. And then the cache is like another in between where you're actually using the cache, and like when the user comes back, that can work if they're on the right domain. And yeah, there's some other ones, like there's all these primitives you might know. You can use JSON, objects, math, images. So one big one which is involved with the profile page that I mentioned is the metadata editor, which is kind of like another standard. And it's a prime example of the state management. So, and you actually use the state management for the metadata editor to create your profile using the social API. So we covered that in more detail today. But if you want to dive deeper into the state APIs, use the profile page editor and the metadata editor template. Um, we can talk more about that if people are interested in that example. But keep in mind we have, you know, all kinds of examples of checking a user's account for some data. Plus, we have customizable homepage for your community, which if you want to learn how to enable that feature of customization, then you can start from one of those. But yeah, is there any other questions? I guess I'll.
Yeah, there's some questions. And just to kind of clarify on that, there's like varying levels of development on BOS. You can essentially just do Web 2 where you're using cache, you're using the clipboard, you're using the state. You can use external APIs, which is something that Luis will go over, and then you can interact with the social contract in there. But sorry, I got some background noise, but just to clarify, so can you go over the I am human gated boilerplate just to give an you said you would go over the SBT example?
Sure, it's very similar to the one I showed, but it's another landing page. I can share the short link, to that one. It's map.near.social, but I'll grab. Let me find it. Here it is. I'm gonna share my screen again. Okay, here we go. So this is the landing page we have for regional communities, and it uses the soulbound token check instead of a non-fungible token check. So those are very similar, but we go into it. Oh, whoops, I gotta.
Yeah, a problem with a lot of these short links is because it uses a my page redirect. When you view the source, it often doesn't show the source. So what we do is we actually go to the profile page, we look under the components, and then we find it that way. So
Yeah, sorry about that. It's one of the main problems that we're trying to solve is navigation, and curating libraries, which I think we forgot to finish doing, by the way. We can get all of those into a featured components widget, but I got distracted by the bug. So here's the code for the soulbound token check right here. So you go into this right here. It's using different issuers. So it's a little bit different than the NFT check because it can be multiple issuers here. This one is fractal. So it's just the way the soulbound token contract works, just slightly differently, but for the most part, it's the same. But this actually has a DAO feature as well. So this is where you do the check for the human, and if they're human, then you show them this button to join the DAO. The caveat here is that people can fork your component and get around this by changing the code, but it's a good way to help users find what they need to based on their account data, what they share publicly on chain. And yeah, this is another good example of a cool thing, a little teaser for later in the summer. We'll be talking about component design patterns and even a design system. And here's an example of that, which is still in development, but this is the dig button. And so you're actually passing in a widget, which works like a kind of reusable button that you can pass in the props and get whatever you want into that button. So these are really useful if you want to customize the look and feel of your buttons instead of just using like the React Bootstrap buttons or like custom styling that you have to write yourself. Like this gives you a lot of options, in the variants, and you can have different sizes and easily put in the right link and everything. So yeah, nothing too much different. I think Another one to highlight though is this one. Because this one checks if you have created a widget. So it actually uses the social API to do a check. It's defining is builder is false first, and then getting the widgets from the account ID, and then counting the number of widgets they have. And if it's more than 0, then they are a builder. Is builder is true. So then down here, this checks for if you're a builder. And this is a different kind of conditional where it shows this is a question mark instead of the double ampersand. So the double ampersand just either shows it or doesn't. But this is like an or, so it's like if this, and if not is down here. So that uses a little colon in between the two parentheses, which wrap around the conditional objects here. So like what you're rendering depends on this conditional is builder, and then you either show this part if they haven't made a widget, and if they have made at least one, then they see this.
Yeah, and a lot of these are common principles in JavaScript or JSX that ChatGPT or any AI tool can help you develop. So it's very, very common. Just some comments from the chat. So near API JS is what all dApps use to like interact with the React application, and just using JavaScript to like read and write to the blockchain or call contracts and view it. So that's something dApps already use that's integrated into the VM into Near Social. And going off of how we're recognizing people for BuildDAO, so since you're posting on DevHub and you have your social profile, we're actually going to be following people there and looking at their submissions. And we have a dev dashboard to actually follow all the people who submitted in the past and see the components that they're shipping. And based on the more you ship, the more you level up. So we'll be tracking everything on chain for reference.
Yeah, so you could also follow the BuildDAO account. There's the landing page. This one is another short link, I know, but one way to find it. But also you can go to your.org/.near dev.community. That should work. Thanks for being the near fairy as well, Shot, and keeping it real.
I'm running low right now on my dev account. Token fairy, please.
Got to get that faucet. Yeah, so if you're having trouble at any point, hopefully you know where to find us. Token fairy can help you out too. We will be glad to schedule pair programming sessions. I'm really excited to get to know people who are building and learning together, and we're trying to make this kind of like summer camp vibes feel, where you can pick your own activities, and get ready for the hackathon, which will be the grand finale of this whole summer program. So if you're ever lost, just go to academy.near.social. It'll have all the links. You can also go to nearbuilders.com/BOS Academy, I think, or
Academy.
Yeah. You very much could type anything at the end of that, and it's probably a link that Shot has made to redirect somewhere. So Near Builders is another formidable hub. And yeah, DevHub has got a great way to share your updates along the way. If you want to post and get more involved, that's the place to do that. So hopefully that's all clear. But if you had any questions, The Telegram is one place you could ask, but we're doing the daily office hours, weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. 14 UTC.
And we
14.
also have an idea. Yeah, we also have an ideas board. So if you onboard to the Telegram, there's a bunch of chats, calendar, the builders, and a kind of a future rewards program coming up. But we have an idea backlog. So if you have general feedback and improvement for the BOS ecosystem as a whole, post that there, and we'll be keeping track of all that. Yeah, we're everywhere. Okay, Token Fairy, you got this one, or should I? I'm not the real Token Fairy. Like, we have the Token Fairy in the chat.
Yeah, it is gonna be boss. Here's an offer. Here we go. How much should I offer people as a reward to fix my community page? I'll bounty that. You could probably just find the latest version that works. If it ever worked, I guess. I think it worked at one point. But anyway. Some amount of near. One near from the Token Fairy. Or should it be 100? On that note.
Token Fairy, not the Grand Fairy, you know.
Yeah, not 100. Okay, somewhere in the middle. We'll have to figure that out together as a DAO, right? We gotta build first.
Oh yeah, and if anyone's interested in the DAO build, we just made a GitHub backlog to basically build all DAO functionality ever, plus integrated in a social near directly on BOS. So if you have a special interest in DAO, BOS, decentralized front ends, we're about it. We're building it live in the open, live on recording. Hit us up on the Telegram.
Yeah, you can join BuildDAO just by following. If you go to that devs.near.social page, there's a little follow button.
Yeah, our saying is, if you don't ship, you walk the plank. Pirate joke. So stay shippy.
Yeah. Well, there is a leaderboard. You might fall down it if you don't keep shipping, It's gonna be really bad. Lose your rank. I'm almost embarrassed of how many widgets I make. And apparently none of them work. So I need your help, everybody. And so does everyone. Everyone should join, get involved. I believe anybody can learn. Everybody can build on the blockchain operating system. And hopefully this program helps you get to where you want to be. And yeah, I think that's it for today, unless we have other questions. Thank you all for being here. We'll probably record a shorter version of this and share it around, but I think this will automatically send a recording to everybody as well. So you have that. But have a good rest of your day, wherever you are, whatever time it is, and we'll see you next time.